The UN Special Envoy says the truce is a rare opportunity in years towards a political solution in Yemen. The Yemeni consultations in Riyadh draft a roadmap to empower state institutions. Houthi mines continue to claim lives of civilians across the country. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Rushan Fouad. The Special Envoy of the United Nations for Yemen, Hans Grunberg, stressed that the consultations in Riyadh are a real opportunity for a solution in Yemen. Grunberg stressed in a press conference from the Jordanian capital Amman that the truce needs the support and respect of all parties. The UN envoy outlined that there has been a significant decrease in violence since the start of the truce, but there are reports of hostile activities, especially around Ma'rib. Last Friday, the UN envoy had announced that the parties to the Yemeni crisis had shown a positive response to a 2-month truce that began on Saturday, the 2nd of April. The terms of the truce include facilitating the entry of 18 ships, carrying fuel to the Houthi-controlled ports of Hodeidah, and allowing 2 flights to and from Sana'a airport every week for the first time since 2016. After 6 days of discussions in Riyadh, gatherers at the intra-Yemeni consultations began drafting solutions and a roadmap that would address the challenges confronting their country's security and stability. GCC ambassador to Yemen said consensus has prevailed throughout the talks. More details are in the following report.
After days of discussions in Riyadh, gatherers at the intra-Yemeni consultations began drafting solutions and a roadmap that would address the challenges confronting their country's security and stability. The Gulf Cooperation Council is sponsoring the talks that kicked off last week. GCC ambassador to Yemen said consensus has prevailed throughout the talks, stressing that everyone in Yemen, without exception, is in agreement on the need to lead their country to stability and prosperity. He added that the Yemeni people are pinning their hopes on their representatives at these consultations, outlining that the draft roadmap is being shaped. The ambassador stressed that Yemen will find the needed support from its brothers at the GCC. In recent days, Yemeni consultations in Riyadh tackled the challenges and obstacles facing the country. The consultations are seen as a platform to diagnose the situation in the country so that it can move from war to peace, in spite that the Houthis have declined the invitation for talks. Gatherers are holding open and expanded meetings with the government to address all pressing issues. According to sources inside the panels, the Yemeni parties are determined to bolster state institutions and enable them to serve the people, reiterating that the solution to Yemen's problems lies in the hands of the Yemenis themselves. The consultations are set to conclude on Thursday, and they are not considered as a substitute to United Nations negotiations or the Gulf Initiative. An issue that enjoyed consensus at the consultations is the need to reform the performance of the government. The parties discussed the relationship between the various components of the legitimate authority, including between the legitimacy and member states of the coalition. They also discussed the fight against the Houthi militia. Security challenges in all Yemeni provinces were on the table. The discussions cover security solutions and the recommendations that will be adopted by the consultations. The government will be responsible for applying them, as well as uniting national ranks. The Yemeni discussions also cover the possibility of merging various military formations in the battle for liberation.
The Houthi militia continued its violations of the truce on various fronts on the western coast. The Houthi violations included targeting residential neighborhoods with heavy and medium weapons in a number of districts south of Hodeidah and west of Taiz. The militia, in addition, targeted military sites on the same fronts. Local sources in the governorates of Damar and Sana'a reported a massive campaign of arrest of dozens of people. The Houthi campaign came after new anti-Houthi slogans appeared on the walls of dozens of houses and buildings. According to the sources, the militia took the people from the streets and from inside several mosques and homes. Anti-Houthi slogans appeared in many streets and residential neighborhoods in the governorates of Sana'a, Damar, and Al-Bayda. A child was killed and 7 other people were injured in a landmine explosion in Hodeidah, west of Yemen. A local source said the landmine planted by the Houthi militia exploded in front of a house in a neighborhood in the city of Hodeidah. A human rights report revealed that the mines planted by the Houthi militia killed 2,818 civilians from April 2014 to March 2022. The report added that mines have injured 3,655 during the same period in which 17 Yemeni governorates were covered. The report stated that Houthi mines had damaged 5,596 public and private facilities partially and completely. Masam project said it cleared more than 329,000 mines in several Yemeni regions since its initiation. The Masam project started operation in 2018 and has extended its work in Yemen for a 4th consecutive year. Days ago, the world marked the International Day for Mine Awareness and Assistance in Mine Action. In Yemen, Houthi mines have killed and injured thousands of innocent people. They devastated the livelihoods and interrupted daily lives. More on the story is in the following report.
Yemen is among the world's most mine-contaminated countries, where the devices have maimed civilians for decades, strewn across the land in the course of long and bloody conflict. Landmines, explosive devices, and unexploded items in Yemen have left 363 civilians killed or injured throughout 1 year. In the last years, Yemen saw the world's largest mining operations since the World War II, with reports blaming the Iranian-backed Houthi militia for laying over 1 million landmines. They depend on random mining as a defensive tactic to hinder advances of opposite troops towards their sites. Since the Houthi militia took over Sana'a in 2014, they have particularly used landmines which have a massive impact on children. Children are kept in danger of losing a limb or their lives while playing with or stepping on a remnant of the continuing conflict. Based on demining figures, the scale of contamination is up to 1 million landmines. To get water from the well, to collect firewood, to graze animals, to do anything Yemenis need to do in order to survive, they have to cross the minefield. Every day they have to make the choice, whether to risk death by landmine or to die of thirst. Families do not allow their children to go out anymore, as they are scared for them, and they keep living in fear. The Houthi random mining across Yemen, including camouflage devices and other explosives of sophisticated technologies, pose grave threat to the safety of civilians and the demining teams and complicate their tasks. Director of the National Mine Action Program, Amin Al-Aqili, said that 61 members of his crew have lost their lives and a large number of others have sustained wounds due to the mines. Over 329,000 landmines in Yemen have been cleared by the Saudi Arabia-based King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center since the project first launched in 2018. Project Masam has reportedly saved hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen by removing mines that were placed in residential areas, roads, schools, and farms. Houthis not only planted the mines on roads and strategic infrastructures, but also plant many on agricultural lands, like Makha, which are the only source of income and sustenance for many civilians in southwestern Yemen. People who live in these areas are punished not once but twice. The mines not only blow up their children, but also prevent them from cultivating their fields. They lose their source of income as well as food for their families. Yemen's invisible threat will keep haunting civilians and children wherever they go. All what Yemenis wish for is for things to get back to normal so they can be able to live safely in their own land and that children can come to school, learn, and be able to play with their friends normally like all other kids at their age. But the question is it too much to ask for?
Coming next. Rising prices of food in Ramadan have overshadowed the spirituality of the holy month.
راتب الواحد 120 ألف، والكيس الدقيق ب18,000، والكيس السكر اليوم ب20,000. كم يعني بيعطي هذا الراتب كامل كيس سكر وكيس دقيق؟
المواطن اليمني يعيش في أزمة إنسانية وغذائية مؤلمة من غلاء الأسعار وفحشة الأسعار وغلاء الصرف والعملة الأجنبية في البلد.
حالتي الحين حالة لما ندفناش القيلة ما نقدرش ناكل الأكل داخل، ما احنا بحاجة صعبة.
Welcome back. The electricity service was cut off a number of districts of Aden districts in southern Yemen. Local sources said one of the energy companies suspended its service in protest against failure of the government to pay the dues payable to the company. Angry youth in Hadramaut province cut off the coastal road linking Yemen and Oman. They protested against the deterioration of basic services, especially electricity. According to local sources, dozens of angry youth demanded the local authority and the concerned bodies to quickly improve the performance of the electricity service. New job opportunities have been recorded during the month of Ramadan. People in Mecca city have started their small projects selling different kinds of food common during Ramadan. The following report has more details on this.
Some call it the month of sustenance and the season of blessing, given the job opportunities it creates for those who are waiting for it in Mecca, in order to provide for their living needs. They sell products of their own, and others are waiting for them to buy these products. And between buying and selling, there's a simple joy shared by the simple people in this holy month. Preparation for Ramadan meals begins at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, as a large number of fasting people prefer to buy Ramadan food, which are directly offered by sellers, as these meals are linked to the month of fasting and nothing else.
Ramadan has opened the door of God for us, as we sell the sambusa, baklava and the bread and everything that people like to eat during this month.
Here Ahmed stands to help his father next to his wooden box to sell sambusa. For him, it is a good season to make a living from selling these small pieces.
Thank God that this holy month of Ramadan has started, in which many products are available and juices. People repent, fast, pray a lot during this month, and they ask God to erase their sins.
The month of Ramadan has opened the doors to livelihood for all. Many job opportunities are available in this month through the sale of Ramadan meals that fasting people like to buy.
It has been the 8th year in which Yemenis welcome the holy month during war. Food prices have risen dramatically. People cannot afford securing basic items. The following report has more details on this.
For the 8th year in a row, the month of Ramadan has begun, and the Yemeni war continues, leaving catastrophic effects on the lives of the vast majority of Yemenis amid the aggravation of the economic and humanitarian crisis and the deterioration of the local currency prices against the dollar. This combination of crises facing Yemen has led to an economic and living decline for the population in various governorates, without exception coinciding with a crazy rise in the prices of foodstuffs, flour, and vegetables. The economic and humanitarian crises have largely cast a shadow over the lives of the population, with a large segment of the population affected who lost their sources of income due to the interruption of interests, institutions, and companies in the public and private sectors. Ramadan this year is different from all years. There is a crazy surge in prices. The United Nations announced that millions of Yemenis do not have enough food during the holy month of Ramadan, with the deteriorating living conditions in the country. In addition, the International Committee of the Red Cross said that Yemen's needs are enormous and beyond imagination. Last week, the United Nations International Organization for Migration announced that more than 25.5 million Yemenis are now living below the poverty line as a result of the repercussions of the war that has been going on for more than 7 years. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees stated through its Twitter account that many displaced people in Yemen depend on its cash assistance to buy food and medicine, pay rent for housing, and buy clothes. On March 16, the United Nations announced receiving financial pledges from 36 donors worth $1.3 billion for its humanitarian plan in Yemen for 2022, while it was seeking to obtain $4.27 billion to reach 17.3 million people. After 7 years of fighting, many households in Yemen are deprived of basic food needs, and families cannot secure anything to lead a normal life. Lastly, the 2-month truce between the warring parties that began on Saturday aims to bring some relief to Yemenis by allowing fuel shipments into Houthi areas.
A recent report revealed the spread of money laundering in Yemen due to war. The report issued by the Media and Economic Information Center showed that money laundering includes emergence of unlicensed exchange companies, unorganized real estate market, trading in oil derivatives, smuggling money abroad, and seizing the money of political opponents. The United Nations has warned that 5 key districts in Houthi militia-run areas are on the verge of famine. This comes hard when the militia loots the aid given by the international agencies and give it to their affiliates. More details on this report in the following report.
5 Yemeni districts held by the Iran-backed Houthi militia might face starvation, according to an international agency specializing in food security assessments. The organization cautioned that the conflict in Ukraine, which supplies Yemen with around 30% of its annual wheat needs, threatens to worsen the situation in Yemen. A request was made to the Famine Review Committee, FRC, to assess the plausibility of the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC. Yemen Technical Working Group, TWG, Acute Food Insecurity, AFI, and Acute Malnutrition, AMN, classifications in 5 Houthi-controlled districts in western Yemen, namely Abs, Harad, and Midi in Hajjah, and Al-Hali and Al-Hawak in Hodeidah. The FRC discovered that the categories and population projections based on the evidence available at the time of the analysis are widely credible for the existing and anticipated classifications in Abs, Al-Hali, and Al-Hawak. It did, however, decide that there is insufficient evidence to justify a famine classification for Midi and Harad. The committee determined that the extrapolation from Abs data for both acute food insecurity and acute malnutrition analyses were implausible. It proposed that the Yemen Technical Working Group review the presence of the inhabitants residing in these areas, as well as their circumstances, rather than classifying them. It was noted that the Ukraine crisis transpired in the immediate following of the Famine Review Committee activation, necessitating a revision of the scenario definition for the projected period. The FRC emphasized that the risks associated with the Ukraine crisis require a re-evaluation of the assumptions developed by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Analysis System, particularly the prices and supply of wheat and fuel, as well as a change in the geopolitics surrounding the Yemen conflict and possible shifts in humanitarian programming in the coming months. It identified a number of risk variables that might change rapidly during 2022. These factors and/or the possible degree of change are a result of recent events that could not have been predicted at the time of the Yemen IPC studies. Nonetheless, the FRC said that these variables may have an impact on TWG classifications across the time spans they cover. Without close monitoring and prompt reaction to any changes, the committee expressed concern that the severity of Yemen's food security, nutrition, and health situation might surpass the thresholds already stated in the current and projected time periods.
Exchange companies in the Yemeni capital Sana'a refrained from delivering remittances in foreign currencies. Local sources said the exchange companies refused for the 3rd day in a row to hand over remittances in foreign currencies and deliver them in the local currency at a lower price. The source described this step as illegal and considered it as exploitation of the citizens' conditions. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. The UN Special Envoy says the truce is a rare opportunity in years towards a political solution in Yemen. The Yemeni consultations in Riyadh draft a roadmap to empower state institutions. Houthi mines continue to claim lives of civilians across the country. This is the end of the news. For more, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Yemen Today English. See you soon.